Matthias Boddenberg. What is it that here in South Africa we're not doing right?
I don't know whether there's anything that South Africa is not doing right. I think it's a question of how do you approach the challenges in a modern society as ours today. Mm-hmm. And the German system, and the professor mentioned the social market economy, is basically based on the understanding between employers and labor that we have to work together in order to achieve success in our world. And part of that success is certainly based on a solid training philosophy in society.
All right, I'll talk about that solid training philosophy, but central to this, and the professor makes this point, is that there must be trust between labor and business. If labor is willing to take lower wages, business must reinvest. How do you create that trust?
Oh, I think it goes back quite some time. In the 60s, we had in Germany an initiative that was called concerted action, where basically labor, employers, and the state sat around the table and discussed how to create, how to structure the economic upswing, and what the individual parties would contribute to it, and what the individual parties would benefit from.
Now, you talk about training. In this country, we'll argue that we have sector education and training authorities, that we're doing all we can in as far as training the workers. How different is the training that's given to the workforce in Germany?
I think one has to make a distinction between the theoretical setup and the practical implementation. The theoretical setup here with the CETAs and with all the authorities is very important to lay the foundation for the practical implementation. In Germany, we base our training, as far as non-tertiary training is concerned, on the combination basically of practical training in the company and theoretical training in a special school, which we call trade school. We have the system that the students go and attend 4 days a week practical training in a company which employs them for a period between 2 and 3 years and teaches them how to work practically in the trade that they have chosen. The second part is 1 day a week for the 2 or 3 years training in the trade school, where the theoretical background and the theoretical foundation for the trade and for the job is basically taught.
That's very interesting, but how do you make sure that you don't get any objections from labor, which is what we get often in this country when you introduce certain schemes that may mean that people are temporary?
You mean during the term of the training period?
Yes.
Now, there is normally an understanding that the companies and the schools, which are normally run by the state, have a limited period of time, the 2 or 3 years, within which the companies take responsibility for the trainee and also pay him a basic allowance, I would call it. It's not a salary, it's an allowance, which enables the student or the trainee to live off and to basically pay the bills.
And talk about the outcomes. What sort of outcomes have you observed over the years then as a result of these programs?
The programs have been, in Germany they have been running for 150 years. And I think here in South Africa there was also kind of an apprenticeship in previous years, and that was also quite well accepted. Normally, you must also consider that the companies and the trainees use the time of the training, the 2 or 3 years, to learn more about each other, so that they can decide at the end of the training period, do we really fit together? Does the trainee want to work for that company in the future? And on the other hand, the company, do they want to work with that trainee in the future then as a full colleague?
And the reason why I'm asking is clearly the German workforce is known all over the world for the efficiency and competitiveness, and you attribute it directly to this the training program.
I would think so, and German companies worldwide try to basically also introduce that training program that they have in the home country, Germany, also in the foreign countries where they have subsidiaries and branches.
You know, yesterday we had a discussion about also the role of business in dealing with some of the social ills in this country. And some of my guests were arguing that the first place to start is really deal with education broadly. To what extent then is education broadly contributing to what